And we're live. And it's everyone's favorite day of the year here. Happy Digital Learning Day, everyone.
Happy Digital Learning Day.
There's no one watching. We're audience-less.
Yeah.
We are audience-less right now.
Well, I mean,
we're doing this anyway. We don't have a live audience.
Most schools have off, so it's understandable.
But this is a tradition that we started keeping by informally checking in and talking to each other. So why not broadcast it so that someone else might be able to benefit and learn? So this is a somewhat of a departure from the typical model schools live, since we're technically not live.
Well, we are live.
We're live.
We're live.
We're live.
People might not be watching us live. They might be watching us archived, but
we're live
now. We're live now.
But this is a day where we get to unwrap surprises and goodies for each other, because in honor of Digital Learning Day, we're just going to take a few minutes and unpack and share with you some of the digital tools that we either use, that we appreciate, that we use with districts that we've heard about, or maybe ones that we can recommend. So just so that everyone knows, no one knows what's going to be talked about here.
I don't know what they're doing.
I told Randy before, but he doesn't remember.
We all have surprises. Some new, some old.
Yeah.
You know, classics never die, as they say. So if you're watching this and you care to chime in and participate in other model school sessions, you can register for them in My Learning Plan. And when we're not on a break week, we usually have a voice from the field, somebody in a school district that generously gives of their time to be in the hangout with us. But for right now, it's just the three of us on the couch.
Yes.
And we're going to brainstorm our way through what we've decided to share. So I think, Randy, did we decide that it would make sense for you to go first?
Okay. Starting first.
Randy goes first.
Can't wait.
So, let me get the parts and pieces here together. So, if you are already a OneNote, Microsoft OneNote user, you already know that it's kind of a wide variety of options for those who don't think linearly in a document form to collect, consolidate, and create materials. And one of the things I've enjoyed over the last numbers of months is how Microsoft has made OneNote platform agnostic. And as I'm kind of out there every day busy working on things, I find this piece of online material I need to remember, but I can't remember.
Right.
I need this website and that tool, and I got tired of email this, email that, email that. So taking advantage of all the different ways to get stuff into my OneNote notebook without, or any of my OneNote notebooks, without having to open OneNote or email it to myself. So I thought I'd just give you a kind of a quick tour of some tips and tricks on Mac OS, iPhone or iPad iOS, and on Windows.
Perfect.
I'm very excited that you're doing this, and you'll see why later.
Okay, cool.
Couldn't have been more perfect.
Cool.
That you're going first. Yeah.
So, I'm supposedly screen sharing. Yes, so this is my OneNote desktop on my Mac. But one of the things I love about any Apple tool using OneNote, you're probably already familiar with Apple's little share sheet tool, whether it's in your browser or any other Apple preview. And so here I am. I might be doing some research for some upcoming interesting middle school science projects, and I kind of love this list and website, and I love this activity and everything here, but I'm not going to copy and paste URLs or anything like that, because that's too much work. But with the Mac share sheet, I've actually got my OneNote item here, and when I choose to share this to OneNote, I can then add a little note. Check this out for next week, and choose from one or more of my OneNote notebooks, and I use a lot of different notebooks.
Wow.
And then choose which section I want it to go into. And then this little tool will automatically take a screenshot of the web page, if it's a web page, and send that to my OneNote notebook, and I'll do it again the same for this one. This is a list of the top 10 awesome science experiments your teachers never told you. I'll tell myself go through each one. And so I can make notes to myself, but this OneNote share sheet tool will take the title of the site as well as a screen clipping, and then it will pop it into, here it is, in my OneNote notebook. in that section I told it, and it automatically puts the little annotation I made, a screenshot of the complete web page, no matter how long,
That's great.
and then at the bottom, it automatically includes the URL for me.
That's amazing.
So I don't have to worry about putting it or popping it in anywhere like that. So when you're using any, if you're using a Mac computer, laptop, desktop, if you're using Safari, look for that share sheet. Now this OneNote tool appears because I've installed the OneNote desktop on my Mac.
Okay.
Once you do that, it automatically shows up in the share sheet. But if you've got a lot of share apps, you might need to click on your More here on the share sheet, and that'll take you to your extensions to then enable it or make it show up in the share sheet for you.
So Randy, you're talking about the OneNote app that's available for the Mac OS.
That's correct. This is a OneNote desktop software application for the Mac OS.
Full desktop software.
Yep.
And that only works in Safari.
No, that Apple share sheet on a Mac computer, you'll find that in the Safari browser, that little square with the up.
Yep.
Right.
You'll also find it in Preview. So if I have a PDF file or something else, maybe I've got this image open in Apple Preview.
Right.
Remember, you've got the share sheet there as well.
But only, I'm saying only the Safari browser. It wouldn't work with Chrome or Firefox?
Not on the Mac.
Okay.
On the Mac desktop, that share sheet tool is built into the Mac system.
Got it.
Now, on the Chrome browser or the Firefox browser on a Mac desktop, you could install the OneNote Clipper, which will be a browser add-in here.
Yes.
But just for simplicity, since it's already built into the Apple OS, I usually just stick with the Apple share sheet. That is related to any iOS product. So if you have an iPhone, or an iPad, and let me get mine set up here. So here is my iPhone, and again, I found this website that I'd want to kind of remember for later, but I'm not going to email it or anything. So when I open my share sheet, I've got my OneNote right there, and again, which of my OneNote notebooks, and any one in the section, I can add a little annotation, and then it makes the screen clipping and sends it right to that OneNote or section.
Wow.
Very handy on my iPad and my iPhone. I find this site. I don't have time to read it right now, even for 10 seconds. I just shoot it to my OneNote notebook section, and then I can consolidate and organize later.
So are you finding, Randy, that did you start out with some kind of clipping tool and migrate to OneNote, or did OneNote help you to organize all the stuff that you were trying to save?
Well, I used to, take screenshots on whatever tool, so I'd use the Apple screenshotting grab tool, or in Windows I'd use the Windows snip tool, or on my mobile device I'd just do the home and power button and take a screenshot, and then I'd email the screenshot to myself, and then I'd file it away for later. But as all of the various versions of OneNote across all platforms got updated and have kind of expanded out in their capabilities, for me, that's just a great way for me to collect and consolidate. It's like having a big dumping box.
Yeah.
Find this, put it in. Find this, put it in.
So you didn't have to tread through Evernote and kind of like port stuff over.
No.
Yeah.
I also really love that it's in OneNote, because in my Microsoft districts, a lot of teachers at first are a little hesitant to use OneNote because it seems so, to them, they've never seen anything like it before because they're used to Microsoft Office Suite, and they've never necessarily seen OneNote. And then they're like a little bit dragging their feet, a little hesitant to jump to OneNote. And then once they see that it's really just a 3-ring binder with the sections and the pages, and really just organizing yourself, it makes so much sense. So it's pretty cool that you actually organize yourself with your own OneNote notebook.
Yeah, because I just got tired of searching through my emails for different clips and then saving those or dragging them onto my desktop or in a file, and it just brings everything together, and it's just kind of like my journal or consolidation. Now, if I can find a PDF example, there's one little tip on, let's see, oh, here's a PDF file. If you're going to be using this on your iOS, on your iPhone, or on your iPad, here's one little Randy recipe, if you will, for dealing with PDF files. Because depending upon how you share out a PDF file, influences how it shows up in your notebook.
Right.
So here's a PDF file I pulled up from the web. And if you've probably seen sometimes in your iPad or iPhone, you'll get that little, do you want to open it in iBooks?
Right.
Or do you want to open in something else? Now you might be inclined, hey, I'm right here and I'll use the share sheet and I'll just put it into OneNote. But if this is actually a PDF file, notice at the bottom how it says URL.
Mm-hmm.
What that's going to do is it's just going to end up putting the link to the PDF in my OneNote notebook instead of the actual PDF file.
Right.
So if I just tap on the top and get that open in or open in iBooks, when I go to open in and choose OneNote, then it's actually going to include the PDF file. You can see it at the bottom, along with a link to the PDF file. And so if I send that, then in my OneNote notebook, it'll have both the PDF file as well as the link to that. So here is that page that got created in my OneNote, and there's the PDF file kind of embedded into the page right there.
Wow.
So just a kind of little tip I kind of stumbled on, because I was like, I don't want the link, I want the actual file.
Yeah.
So that's on an iPad or an iPhone. Now, if you're on a Windows environment, you can take advantage of the any web browser, whether it's Firefox, Chrome. So here in my Chrome browser in Windows 10, I installed the OneNote Clipper.
Yeah, that's
kind of like a browser add-on extension.
Yeah.
And again, if I'm on this website and I want to snap it to one of my notebooks, I'll just open my OneNote Clipper. And again, I can choose from any of my existing OneNote notebooks which section I want to put it in, and then either take the full page screenshot or maybe even a little just region. And when I click that, again, it'll take the screenshot of the whole page plus the URL link for me automatically.
So we're looking at an emulated Windows 10 environment. You're running Parallels?
Yeah, on my one of my Mac laptops, I run Parallels. On another Mac OS device I have, I run Boot Camp.
Boot Camp. Okay. We have to live in every single world there is.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
We really do.
But it's great, Randy, because those of us, you can tell, those of us that tend to use Macs felt a little bit gypped by the OneNote experience initially.
I know.
Because we really only had that, the website, which doesn't have the full functionality, but it's good for micro edits. And then there was the app version, but now you're able to, the functionality is slowly creeping into the Mac world as it's existed in the PC world.
Yeah, there are differences in the capabilities just between the OS versions inherently. One of the really exciting things for me has been taking advantage of the iPhone and the iPad versions of the OneNote apps because of all the integrated drawing tools, even on the Windows and now on the Mac as well. The kind of drawing aspect. So I use OneNote kind of a lot as my sketchnoting, my doodling kind of note-taking tool and everything.
I've seen
from there.
teachers use, the most recent example I have, they were doing something with memory. It was a psychology class, and they had to they used OneNote and they had to draw a penny from their memory.
Oh yes.
So they used the details of a penny. I mean, you think you know.
Did you do it along with them?
No, but you think you would know a penny. How many times have you seen a penny?
Yeah, but I'm sure that there's such minute detail.
Yeah. So could you do that using a computer typically? No, you probably couldn't draw a penny. But in OneNote, you have that ability. There's, you could answer text-based questions or draw.
Yeah.
So they drew a penny using the drawing tool.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
I hope nobody cheated using Google Images, no?
I don't think they could have because we were all looking at their screens. They would have gotten.
That's a great activity. I've encountered that in training seminars in the past. It does kind of contrast, is exposure or frequency of exposure a factor in determining memory retention? It's like, no, because we've carried around pennies all our life, and none of us can remember what they look like.
On both sides. Right, exactly.
Yeah, they had to draw both sides of the penny. It was in caramel, Andy. Shout out to Ann.
Thanks, Randy. I give that the Digital Learning Day stamp of approval.
Yes.
That was a
So
great tip.
collect, research, grab, and don't waste time emailing or screen flipping, or just toss it in your
Across
notebooks.
all your devices. Same kind of a,
Yep.
Would you mind unscreen? Okay, Randy set me up perfectly. I couldn't have asked for a better setup
Always.
than that.
Happy to
Always.
help.
Seriously, it was, I don't even
You're
know if that was
welcome.
intentional, but that was perfect. All right. So, I decided to share the worlds that I'm living in right now, which is
Are.
Google and Microsoft. So you
Because there are many worlds.
Yeah. I mean, and Apple, because I live on a MacBook, but I also use Chrome. So every device, pretty much every world. But the two biggest worlds is probably Google and Microsoft. So Randy set that up really nicely with the Microsoft world. So maybe I'll keep going with the Microsoft world and then jump to the Google world. So now that we're in the Microsoft world, let me show you my screen. Well, first of all, if you're in a Microsoft district and you decide to use OneNote class notebook creator, you have to manually type in all probably 100 and something students because you might be a middle school or high school teacher. I could save you one step. So if you are logged into your 365 Outlook, you'll see something called groups. It's extremely helpful to create a group. This one's just called test group that I made up. And the first time you do it, you just have to set up a group for each one of your students, each one of your classes, and invite all your students in there. Then when you set up your class notebook, you just invite that group, and all of your students automatically join.
Oh.
Yeah. So when it says add student, type the name of the group, all students get added.
Now, do groups have to be enabled in the domain by the domain administrator?
Yes. So in Lyric, we actually don't have groups.
We don't, right.
But in my other districts that I'm working in, Carmel and Katona both have groups.
Right.
So we set up a group, and it was actually also helpful to have a group because Marsha, shout out to Marsha, in Katona, her students create videos using their iPads or cell phones on vocabulary words. They each pick a word and make a little video. It's their homework assignment.
Very cool.
So she wants them to share it with each other because it'll help them remember the words.
Right.
So we set up a folder in OneDrive, and it's called Video Assignment Submission Folder. And then in that folder, there are subfolders for each type of assignment. And there's one called Vocabulary Words. Well, all she had to do is share that one folder with her one class or classes, and they all take the little videos of themselves at home and upload it to the folder because they have the app on their device.
So you would create the group first.
Yep.
And that's presumably easier than having to invite students by name individually to a class notebook.
Well, what happens is throughout the year, you're probably going to want to share documents or folders or emails with a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
So you set it up once the first week of school, and then for the whole rest of the year, whatever you decide to create or do is done. You already set up the group ahead of time.
That would be a huge time saver, I think.
Yeah. So it's annoying the first time, but after that, it's a lot of time. So that's one thing that I want to show. Not that many people know about that.
Very practical.
Yeah. And I can skip over a lot of the OneNote stuff because Randy covered a lot of that. Thank you.
Sure.
And the other thing that I wanted to show was, let me show screen. And unfortunately, I can't show the full-blown book version, but Office Mix. So Office Mix is an add-on to PowerPoint, and on a MacBook, you don't have the ability to add on the add-on to PowerPoint,
right.
But it really just be a tab in PowerPoint where you can add all these features. But I can show you one that's already been created. So what it does, I'll switch to us for a second. What it does is it allows you to embed videos or record your voice over each slide of your PowerPoint. And you could also insert questions. So if you are flipping your classroom, it makes it easier for you to take a PowerPoint you've already done with your students as a lesson. Just record your voice over each slide, or embed a YouTube video, or am I missing anything else? What else can you add?
No, it's a great branching out into what some people may know as e-learning authoring tools,
right.
Because you can take advantage of PowerPoint animations and do custom navigation paths from one slide to another based upon a chosen path. And then the reporting and analytics that are built into it are really powerful as well.
I'll show you these. This is just a dummy like test thing that I did. So you could see details, and you could ask your students their name. Oh, that's not. Sorry, I meant to click analytics. If you go into analytics, you could see each slide, how many visitors visit each slide, what's the average time they spent on it. So you could look at it per slide. You could look at it by visitor. So if you do give this as an assessment, you could see their names, and you could see what percentage they completed it, and if it was an assessment, the percentage that they got correct. In this case, it wasn't really an assessment, so they all got zeros. But if it was an assessment with a correct answer, then it would have given me their grade. And you could also look at it by each exercise and see their responses. I just don't want to show you all that sensitive information. Randy, do you have anything else to add about Office Mix? Also, it's a URL, so you don't even need...
Yeah, it's completely cloud-based.
Yeah.
And that ability to... You might start from PowerPoint, but it's really just your storyboarding tool because you can set up a table of contents to allow viewers to jump forward and back to sections, not just simply scroll through the video forward or scroll back. And it's opened up a lot of kind of possibilities for e-learning development purely online with built-in formative and summative assessments, branching paths based upon feedback you want to give to a learner based upon their response to something.
And you know if they watched a video on the slide because it'll say how long they spent on the slide.
That's right.
So we have a colleague here that actually developed, if I'm not mistaken, a Smart Notebook 15 self-paced.
A self-paced
learning
PD experience
using Office Mix.
Using Office Mix, yes. And we actually do offer a professional development session on Office Mix. And over the summer, I think you're going to be
I'm trying to put together some ideas about incorporating Office Mix and video and media for kind of making more that push to making your own digital curriculum is now beyond the point of just a flipped video or a self-guided PowerPoint, but integrating in branching and navigation paths or assessment feedback.
Yes.
So if this is of interest to anyone, we do offer just an Office Mix class right now, but our catalog will be released sooner than we know it. And you can look for classes from Randy with Office Mix as well.
So you're showing us, Alana, that on the Mac, Office Mix is a for add-on, for lack of a better word?
No, on a PC only.
Right.
It's an add-on to PowerPoint. Hopefully, we've seen improvements with OneNote with the Apple operating system. So hopefully we'll
you're still authoring on the PC.
Yes, but then once you upload it to Office Mix website, you get a URL and you can manage it from any device. So you just have to create it on your PC and then you can manage it from any.
If the majority of your digital work is in PowerPoint, it makes perfect sense.
Oh yeah.
Rather than trying to convert it to some of these other presentation tools.
Yeah. And if you're in Office 365, either personal home consumer or at your school, it's built in already, and you just download the add-in to your PowerPoint 2013 or PowerPoint 2016 on Windows, and it walks you through it. It's really great. And if you're on a Surface or another Windows PC tablet-based, then you can also incorporate sketchnoting and visualization with a stylus as part of your Office Mix.
Very slick.
That kind of makes me feel, or teachers feel, like it's a little bit like what they're used to with Smart Notebook when they could jump over their thing. So if you don't have Smart Notebook because of the licensing issue, it's a little bit of a way around.
Right? Access,
It doesn't have the interactivity, but the drawing features. Okay, so now I think I'm done with my Microsoft world. Do you have any last comments about Microsoft?
None that can fit in this scheme here.
So I'm going to move on to Google. What I'm going to focus on today within Google is things that most people don't. Oh, I'm showing that. She got a little excited. She saw something.
I completely cheated.
She did.
No cheating.
Don't peek. Is something called extensions. Most people don't realize all the amazing extensions that are out there. What's so amazing about the Chrome browser specifically to me is this is not my device. This is my device. I'm not using mine. I'm using one that I've never used before. I logged into the Chrome browser. If I had a Chromebook, I would already be logged in, but I'm using a Mac just to prove a point that I just logged right into the Chrome browser, and I can show you how to do that. You just click on the 3 lines on the top right, and you go to Settings, and I'll see Disconnect, but you would see Connect up here. And that's how you log in. Once you log in, everything is the same for you, so all of your bookmarks that you have saved are going to be there, and all of your extensions that you have will load. One thing to keep in mind is if you have too many extensions, it'll take a long time for them to load. Some schools, their desktops take a while. So I'm going to go through the first one that I'm going to show you is the Share Classroom extension. It looks like this little classroom icon, this little chalkboard with a person. This one is amazing. So what happens is, let's talk about it. Both you need to have it and your students need to have it. So what I usually suggest is that a district deploys it, they force deploy it to the whole district.
Right.
So first step is everyone needs to have the extension. Second step, most important, is they need to be enrolled in your class.
Right.
If they're not enrolled in your class, then it's not going to work. So when I click the Share to Classroom, all my classes come up. So sometimes you want a student to go to a very specific part of a website that might take 3 to 5 clicks to get there. And a lot of teachers I'm working with right now have self-contained classes, and for their students to get 5 clicks into a website, they already lost them and they can't focus on what they're meant to do. So a teacher gets the exact part of a website they want. They just open up the class they want. I'm just pick my Lakeland. I'll pick my Lakeland one because I was there yesterday. And right from here, you can either create an assignment, ask a question, announcement, but the most important thing is push to students. The second you press that button, I'm not going to do it because they're probably teaching right now because they actually have school. A new tab would literally pop up on their screen with that website if we're all logged into the Chrome browser and they're enrolled in my class. So I wouldn't do that because they're probably standing in front of a room and that's going to bother.
So no matter what they're currently working on, they would get almost like an interruption in the form of something that pops up like a notification.
No, a new tab.
It would be a new browser tab that opens up.
Just opens up.
Right.
So it's like, I do this with one of my classes in Peak Skill. We did a pop quiz, and she just said pop quiz, and it all popped up on the screen.
And it just flashed through all the screens. So.
Yep. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Help me understand something on that, Alana. So when that, on my student view, is that new browser tab what the teacher instructor is doing and navigating, or does it just open it up and it's on my local machine now, and I can self-pass and self-go?
It's not a mirror.
Right, so it's not taking you captive.
Basically, it's like emailing a link and you clicking.
Yep, it's just getting everybody to that place at one time.
Yes.
So it can be great kind of, you want to do simultaneously guided step-by-step activities in a class.
Yep.
You might start off the class lesson, everybody in one place.
Right.
People will naturally diverge and go on their own path. And if you want to
Branch
regroup
off,
midway through a lesson or an activity, then you can just push a new kind of destination out to be. So it's a good way to let them go forth, start from a single place, go out, come back.
Something that you want all eyes on. It could be a rubric. It could be something that facilitates a whole group discussion.
And you know what I discovered yesterday? This must be new. I pushed out a Google Doc through that, and it asked me, do I want my students to be able to edit or comment right on there? Like you have that ability from
right when you're sending it out.
That's huge. That's big.
So I thought that was pretty exciting.
Kind of sets it up right at the moment.
Yeah, one of my teachers, Dan from Edgemont, did this, and he said his students literally were like oohing and eyeing. They were so
it's probably like
it is
magic
trick. It's definitely an ooh and ah.
Yeah.
Probably just discovered it.
Yeah. So that's one extension. I'll move on to the next one. Let me share my screen. The next one is one of my favorites, Screencastify. I know that most of us in this room know about Screencastify. It's really just a screen recording extension, so it's similar to if you have a MacBook, I personally use on my MacBook, I use QuickTime to record my screen because it's a little easier because I can crop it.
Right.
You don't have as many features on this, but it's great if you have a Chromebook and you want to do a screen cap. It just records all of your screen or part or tab or whatever you choose. When you click on it, you can choose, or your camera. So I've seen some teachers just have the students record their camera. Let me just get out of that. I'm giving away my secret. So when you click on it, you could do your tab, your desktop, or your whole camera. I'm just going to show you a quick, one of my teachers filmed me her first flipped video using Screencastify.
How exciting.
So she had to log into her Chrome browser because you have to do that. She used her Eno board and her Eno software, and she just stood up there, and I'll show you pieces of it. She was sick, so don't mind her voice, or we probably won't hear her voice. I'll just flip through so you could see her solving the problem. Oh, we can't hear.
There's that feedback.
Yeah. Well, I'll just mute it, but you can see that she's
so
recording her screen and talk.
Yep.
So she very quickly made that video. Then she assigned in Google, she put the video and the assignments. The students had to watch the video and answer the questions. And it took her only a few minutes because right when you do the Screencastify recording, it saves a file right to your Google Drive.
She's working on the Eno board for this, correct?
Yes.
So whatever shows up on the screen gets recorded. That's the beauty of it.
Literally,
So no matter
whatever's
what
on the
input
screen.
device.
Yeah. So she was on her device. She logged into Chrome. She used that. She shared her whole desktop. And whatever was on her screen was being recorded. And it saved right into her drive. So when she went to Google Classroom, she just chose the Google Drive video from the Screencastify folder and the assignment. And that was it. So that's Screencastify.
That's one of my personal favorites as well.
I know.
Yes.
It is. And then another one of my favorite extensions, I'm not going to go through all of it. Snagit, I'm not going to go through it, but it's a screen capturing tool. So if you want to take screenshots like Randy was showing us, but with OneNote, but in the Google world, you could just take a little screenshot, but then it saves in a folder in your Google Drive, so then you have to insert it into like extra steps than your OneNote secrets. But for people in a Google world, it's the only comparable thing. So,
screen grabs are great.
Yeah.
Even
They're
just a
very
new
helpful.
on the Mac
It's a new
laptop.
fluency, being fluent with
Yes.
grabbing or capturing segments or portions, or having students even be discriminatory about what's the most telling aspect of this website that you're visiting.
We'll call it curating, not grabbing.
Exactly.
It's so much more sophisticated
Exactly.
when you call it that.
a really cool thing is one teacher was having her students do this math game, and then at the end it gives you results. Well,
That's
how
right.
would the teacher know the results?
Yeah, you take
The
a
students could take
screenshot.
a screenshot and submit
Right.
the screenshot as their assignment. Oh, a really cool project I just want to rewind for 1 second. Screencastify. Foreign language teacher. I think I told last week. They watched a video, and it was all in Spanish, and they were learning about verb tenses. So what he did was he took the trailer of the movie, muted the trailer, and the students had to use Screencastify to record their screen, which was the video, and their own audio, to retell the story.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
so I thought
creative
that was
indeed.
Yeah, and then they submitted that video file as their assignment through Google Classroom.
Media masters.
They must have had a ball with that.
That was so much
It's hard
fun.
to do.
Yeah, and then Alyssa's husband was the next lesson I did with Chris.
Who happens to
Edgemont.
speak Spanish and
Yeah.
did a Google Hangout
He
on
did.
behalf of the students there.
That was
Yeah.
pretty fun. So that's that. Moving on, I really don't have that many more. I don't want to waste that much time. I'm going to pull up something. Leslie's probably going to have a field day with it.
Oh.
My point of showing this is when you grade things, you usually find yourself repeating the same comments over and over and over throughout an essay, throughout 100 and something students' essays that you're grading. You just repeat yourself, like check your grammar, add evidence from the text, check your spelling, same few things over and over and over. So what I'm going to pull up is, well, here's something I found in Google Drive, Leslie. I don't know, it says that you're the author of this, but I thought it was funny because today's Digital Learning Day and this essay is about shut down your screen.
I remember when we did this. I can't remember, so I remember that it happened. I can't remember the who, but it was a great, I think we just needed this to practice commenting.
Yeah.
On a Google document, but it was a juicy piece of controversial, just enough of a nugget to engender a lot of comments.
Yeah, so I searched on my
There is
I
a
don't
shut
have
down your
essays,
screen week.
So I searched on my Google Drive for essays, and it came up as you had
That's
the
great.
essay you shared with me. So I was like, out of all essays to pull up for Digital Learning Day, is shut down your screen week.
It's all about balance.
No, it's all about balance.
So I was going to talk about commenting, which is what you used it for. So let's say that they need evidence from the text. Again, this is just all hypothetical. I don't even know what I'm highlighting. You would highlight the text you want to leave with a comment on. And what you might have not noticed, Leslie, is now Google has this little bubble to the right.
Certainly
Did you notice that?
I did,
It's like
yeah.
2 weeks old, so excited about it. Once you click on that, you would normally type your comment. Well, I have an extension that you can see up at the top called Permanent Clipboard. Beforehand, you can click Add New Entry. You give a short little description and then the content you want to put in. So I pre-populate all of my comments that I typically say all the time.
Fabulous.
So when I go to put in that comment, I right-click on a Mac or on a Chromebook. It's a two-finger click. People didn't know that. You insert from Permanent Clipboard, and there's your pre-populated ones. Let's say it's evidence. Click on evidence, and there's my full description. Add supporting evidence from the text. That's a lifesaver.
That's I can't. I'm too embarrassed to even tell you the workaround that we tried to do with this. But it involved having like a notepad with canned comments that you
cut and paste and everything like that. Yeah.
But again, now it's following you in Chrome because it's a Chrome extension.
It's a Chrome, exactly. And I've never been on this before. So that's that. And then I just have one little last thing that I wanted to. Oh, not one last thing.
Very digitally efficient.
There's another one. There's Alice Keeler has Gradebook Split for teachers or Classroom Split for students. And if you have that extension, it just opens two windows side by side. So if you're a student, it opens your Google Classroom and your assignment. If you're a teacher, it opens whatever gradebook feature, whichever gradebook tool you use, no matter what it is, and the assignment. So you can have them side by side. But while I'm in this showing you this, because that saves time and efficiency, what a lot of teachers just don't know also is that by default in Google Classroom, it sorts your students alphabetically by first name.
Yes.
Most of our SIS systems or gradebook uses last name. So if you go to your Students tab and you click under Students, you could do Sort by Last Name. When I show teachers this, they're like, "Are you serious? I've been doing this for over a year."
Oh no!
Yeah.
Just one little.
Yeah, and now
Dive
you
deeper.
can transfer the grade.
Dive deep.
Dive deep.
I know. So
Dive deep.
That's one little thing.
Click and play.
I don't even think I have time
Just
to
push
show
buttons.
you the next last thing, or should I?
Go for it.
Go
It's
for it?
Digital Learning Day.
Okay. So last one, Leslie loves this one. I love this one. I don't know if Randy knows about. Do you know about video notes, Randy?
Yay!
So video notes is awesome. You could choose any YouTube link, put it in. As your students are watching, or you watching the video, you could take notes, and it timestamps your notes. So as you're going back, this one video is called Chemistry of Cookies. It's actually pretty awesome. If I want to know about salmonella, I could go back in my notes to salmonella, and it jumps to that point in the video, so I could rewatch just that section. So you could go back, or you could take notes and review from that.
So the video is playing through this, I guess, I don't want to call it a portal, but through this application.
Yeah.
And the student is logged into Google. The notes that they create can also be shared back with the teacher. It can be saved to
Or
Drive.
collaborated with their students.
It just takes that video watching from something passive to a little bit more engaging.
Yeah, but you can also take notes on a video and write the times, but it's not connected.
Right.
And this kind of connects them.
So it's a great note-taking tool for video. That's a good way of.
Yeah. Okay, I'm done. Was
So
that enough for you?
that was enough of the modern. Now we're ready to take a trip down Amnesia Lane.
I am.
I'm sorry, but I have a quiz for both of you. It's a verbal quiz.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to. Now we're going to see.
So
we're going to see who digs. We're going to dig deep and see.
I told Leslie too bad it wasn't Thursday for Throwback Thursday, but we came back with a name way back Wednesday.
Way back
I don't
Wednesday.
even know if it's a real thing, but it sounds good. So I'm not looking. Take the screen. Tell me when I should screen share.
So let me just minimize this for a minute. So do the names Tom March and Bernie Dodge mean anything?
Oh my goodness!
Stop it! Do they mean
The big old WQ!
No. Lana, do they mean anything to you? We're gonna. This is so. Here is where I would make a depressing comment about the relative ages on the couch. Way back in the day, 1992,
Way back
Netscape
when.
1.0. So Tom March and Bernie Dodge, you don't know those names. Why are those names so interesting?
Well, I can pull Bernie Dodge out of my memory.
San Diego State University.
Yep.
On my
And WebQuest.
And WebQuest.
And Tom March, a software development creative tool. I'm trying to pin it. I can't recall it specifically.
So I'll pull up a website and
Should I screen share?
please, yes. And I'm just going to talk through it. So I just want to tell this story about how sometimes you tuck away something in your back pocket, and when the time is right, it comes back to life again. So a WebQuest, and we're going back to the early 2000s, when the web was just starting to get a lot of, I guess, muscle behind it. And we went from Archie sites to Gopher sites to the actual Netscape Navigator visual web that we now know back in 1992. So do that little adjustment in your brain. Where were you in 92, by the way? Don't tell me it's going to be depressing.
Wait.
I'll be depressed if you tell me where you were in 1992.
I was probably in kindergarten or first grade.
Okay, so I wasn't expecting that. That's a knife in my heart. So you go ahead and share the screen
Yeah,
again.
I was like 6 or 7. So yeah, that makes sense.
So most of you in the group will know and understand the purpose behind a web quest. And really what it is, it was a way of structuring an activity where the majority of resources came from the web. And Randy, do you remember what the key components are to a web quest? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, I can't remember.
So I'll give you a hint. There was an introduction that kind of set the stage. It set the schema for the learner.
Right.
There was a task.
Okay.
Resources.
Some kind of application
there were
or
steps
to follow, or the sequence through the path. Kind of like steps along a journey or a path.
And then an evaluation, or what to kind of evaluate, or some kind of assessment.
Yep.
The thing about web quests that were so fascinating is that they were all project-based learning and inquiry-based before we ever used those words. So when we were taught, actually Tom March, who now lives in Australia, and I think he's probably still there, he came to visit us one time when we were in Marymount. This was going back.
You met him?
I met him in person. Lovely, lovely man. He did a session for our participants on WebQuest. If any of you watching were part of that, I will find a prize for you, because this is really going back. But
in kindergarten?
But if you have to put this in context. Do you realize this was before Google? This was when the when the search engine machines were Yahoo, it was Dogpile, it was Alta Vista, it was Mama, the mother of all search engines.
And the things you had access to were all text-based.
Mostly text-based.
A lot of kind of academically oriented tone or approach or style.
Yes.
Very linear, top to bottom kind of style, and it was just what we might now call flat.
And here's what struck me. Here's what struck me. We would bang our heads on the wall we would talk about WebQuest, we do professional development on WebQuest. Here's the thing. This was back in the day where in order to do a WebQuest, you needed either A, to know HTML, which we taught, because you were in essence building a web page.
Yeah.
Do you want to share the screen, Alana, and I'll just show an example of one, and I'll kind of talk through it. So you either had to know how to do a website. So we did Front Page, we did Adobe PageMaker, we did, God forbid you wanted to do it in HTML. You needed that because this document was supposed to be living, vibrant, active, and nonlinear. So our choices were limited. The second thing is that it was project-based and high emphasis on inquiry, big questions, essential questions. Back in the day, we were doing this where we had pods of machines in a room, and it was very difficult to envision kids having access. Well, guess what's changed? Number one, I can build a web quest now using a Google Doc. I can push it out with Classroom. The emphasis now on social studies and inquiry-based, this is what led me to want to revisit this again, because the sphere and the nature of a web quest is an unanswerable question, kids working together in groups and jigsawing, and a task that's very robust. Let me just show you the one that I'm pulling up here. So this is basically an elementary web quest that has all the key elements of it, an exciting introduction, right? So in this designer's mind, kids don't understand about the world by coloring in a globe using crayons. They understand it by actually partaking of what it means to make sense out of the world. So here's our introduction, right? So we're going to look basically and answer the big question. And the big question here is, how does this world work? How does this world work? So they're starting to see interdependencies between ecosystems and the relationship between plants, animal, and people. So now, and it's written in very, very kid-friendly language, so now they're going to get started on the task. So they're going to work together in partners and basically begin the exploration. So maybe, Randy, you and I are going to work together on plants. Maybe, Alana, you'll choose to work on cultures. But there's an element of choice. This is where the web quest becomes a web quest. It's that these are starting points on the internet that are focused, that are meant to focus students' research, so that it's an incorporation of both search skills and sites that are already curated for them. So this leads to the conclusion and some other possibly wrap-up task that they have to do, and of course there's a rubric and a guide. So the reason I bring this up is the WebQuest format did two things for us. Number one, it made some sense out of all these websites. And I'll tell you, going back, one of the best WebQuest activities we ever did was in conjunction with other professional developers that were studying dimensions of thinking. Really deep questioning and essential questions. One of the WebQuests that we did for PD at the time was around 1999, and we did something called Turn of the Century, where each group of people got a decade, and they had to research that decade, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and they had to come up with one person, one song, one piece of pop culture, one event, and something else. And they had to develop a visual and a slogan to represent that decade. And at the time, some of the resources we looked at really came out of Time magazine, that they did like Person of the Year every year, and they have these time capsule. But if you think about doing that now, can you imagine the richness of what you'd be able to do?
Sure.
And drill down, and the availability of devices and kids writing their own. So, yes, it's old. Personally, I think it was way ahead of its time. But if you really want to go back and do some research, you really want to go back to the beginning about why the WebQuest model was so engaging. Again, had to be a big question, sometimes unanswerable question, robust task, and kids working together in real-life authentic scenarios. We've just described everything we've been looking at. Even being in this very room, Active Learning Center, I would not be surprised if you see a WebQuest class come out of our catalog this summer. I'm not sure what I'm going to name it. I'm telling you, it's going to be like reissuing a classic album. So that's my contribution for digital learning today.
I just thought of something that kind of ties along with yours, but I feel like if you want to talk about it, you're really good at talking about this. It's like what you just said, you're really rethinking the way you're teaching a lesson with that bigger question.
Absolutely.
But also when we use technology, we have to think about the purpose of why we're teaching it and really transforming our lesson using technology, because if it's just something you could have done with a worksheet, then what's the point of doing it?
That's exactly right.
The WebQuest,
Just do it on a worksheet.
Yeah, sometimes it is. It's just answering the question. But what Leslie just showed us with the WebQuest is there's links, and it's nonlinear, and there is self-exploration and choice.
Juicy, thought-provoking.
What I thought you might want to show with that, I pulled it up for you already.
Is the SAMR model. Oh, God bless the SAMR model. So, thank you. This is actually one of my favorite visuals for this framework. It's a way of thinking about stages of technology integration. What it doesn't do is it does not address the deep pedagogy and teaching and learning, but it talks about if you're using technology, there's stages that you would generally expect to see certain behaviors exhibit. So the S, of course, stands for substitution, and in this graphic, it means that, you know what, I'm getting out on the water and I'm using a canoe, so I'm kind of skimming the surface. And as you work your way down or up the ladder, you're getting into areas that are requiring much more of the learner and much more of the teacher in crafting that environment. So you get all the way down into the submersible redefinition, where you're doing things that were unheard of. If you think about the data that we have that we did not have, when I say data, I don't mean just clinical global data. I mean YouTube data. I mean the way people are producing content and making it available, all of the visuals that you can do, all of the insights that are posted on blogs, just that deep human connection where people are able to represent their deepest thoughts using technology. These are not just the clinical websites anymore from 1992. This is everyone. So this is crowdsourcing to the max. But I'm telling you, if people are still struggling with how big and wide and heavy the web is, I would absolutely say go to that WebQuest format, pick a topic or a subject that you think is really juicy and really key. You can marry your knowledge of essential questions and understanding by design, backward design. It's a perfect fit. And try. You don't even have to call it a WebQuest. If you think the name is dated, you can call it something else. But if you didn't know what it was, I'm not sure.
What's funny? I remember now when I first was getting my master's in educational technology, we learned about a web quest, and honestly, I think, I'm not gonna lie, I think I like laughed at it a little.
Right.
Because it was like, look at the web now. And we were learning about something that was so old, and it was just so uninteresting to me. But I feel like if they had transformed it the way Leslie described, using 21st century type stuff, would have been a little bit more appealing. Like, hey, look at this web quest from 10 years ago.
There's great examples from grades 2 all the way to adult. And I've seen some excellent adult web quests. So if you're a professional developer and you need to do some kind of bonding or ice-breaking activity, there's web quests that can be taken in one period, or one that span multiple periods or even multiple days or weeks. So it's, like I said, what's old is new again. You just Google web quest and you'll see some of the examples come up, and hopefully you'll be inspired. So with that, I want to thank my colleagues for all the insights and everything that you're sharing, because both of you are out in the field working with a lot of districts. And thank you for whatever time or space this finds you watching in. Hopefully you found your own reason to celebrate Digital Learning Day. And if you're interested in either watching a live from model schools, participating in the back channel when we actually have an audience, or telling us your story, you can contact either Alana or myself, or even contact Randy. You see, you can find us on our website, lyric.org/IT.
It's it.lyric.org.
it.lyric.org, thank you. And join us for the next Model Schools Live, where it's really live, meaning including you as well.
Yes.
So from the Active Learning Center, signing off and wishing you a great week.
Enjoy your break.